Warning, this video contains team selection and captain choices which some viewers may find offensive.
Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. Before looking to the upcoming Game Week 24, let's first see how my side performed in double Game Week 23. For my transfer activity last week, I had already decided that Kevin De Bruyne had to come back into my squad for City's double game week, a player that I had planned to bring back for this one since wildcarding in 22. In the end, getting the Belgian back was worth it, with him blanking in the first of his two games, but then delivering in that crunch fixture away to Arsenal. A goal, an assist, a 15-pointer. Lovely stuff. The only question here was which player had to make way to bring the Belgian back, between Bruno Fernandes or my differential punt Mudryk of Chelsea. And after much deliberation, I opted in the end to keep Bruno Fernandes, which, considering he blanks in 25, didn't fit my longer-term plan, but I just couldn't bring myself to sell him ahead of Leeds and Leicester. Ultimately, it didn't matter too much, with both Fernandes and Mudryk blanking last game week anyway. But Bruno was so very close to scoring, being denied in a 1v1 against Meslier, so I was very near to getting that call right, especially with Mudryk having already blanked in the early kickoff and getting subbed after 66 minutes against West Ham. Hopefully for this upcoming weekend, Bruno can repay the faith at home to Leicester, before then likely leaving my team in blank game week 25. In that United game against Leeds, what happened in that fixture was perhaps the biggest moment of my game week personally, because last game week I chose to bench Luke Shaw, and he painfully went on to keep a clean sheet, bag an assist, and with that all 3 bonus points. However, to my absolute delight, I got disgustingly fortunate last game week, because the player that I started over Luke Shaw in Rico Lewis didn't even manage a single minute of playing time over a Man City double game week, and therefore Luke Shaw subbed in automatically at the end of the game week, turning a red arrow into a green one. After what's been for the most part a frustrating FPL season, granted due to mostly my own failings as a manager, it was a brilliant feeling to purely luck out here and jam that 12 points off the bench. Considering my pretty poor overall ranking, it did feel good to have a little bit of luck go my way. The other notable return of Game Week 23 was Bukayo Saka, who returned in both fixtures of his double and was a key inclusion of my wildcard in Game Week 22. Probably I'd have used transfers to get him in at this point anyway, but in that scenario I'd have had to have taken hits in the process to do so very happy to have already accommodated him. There was another blank for Mitrovic frustratingly last week, who, unlike other players in my squad such as Rashford, Haaland and Trippier, can actually have a big impact on my ranking. So a blank from him at home to Forest in a 2-0 win was certainly disappointing. He's been a very poor asset in recent weeks and is still looking to be nursing an injury. So for Game Week 23, thanks to Saka, De Bruyne, and mainly that very good bit of fortune with Luke Shaw as an auto-sub, my team finished on a score of 86, and with that a nice rise of around 80,000 places up to 416k. Before the Luke Shaw auto-sub, I was initially looking at a 50k red arrow at around 550k, so those 12 points gave a big change in perspective on the game week, and although 416k is still not a great ranking, it's still the highest my team has been this season so far, and for that I'm happy. Let's move on to Game Week 24 now, check out my current team lineup and discuss any potential transfer plans. Also, if you do enjoy the content here at FPL TV, then be sure to leave a like and most importantly, get subscribed to the channel. You can always hit the notification bell too if you like, and that way you'll always be first to know when a new video goes live. So, heading into Game Week 24, on paper, fairly happy with how the side is lining up, and considering we're now just one game week away from the notable blank Game Week 25, and therefore with one eye on that blank game week, this weekend was always going to be a game week in which, for me, I am keen to save a transfer and take 2 into next game week, giving me a bit more flexibility. So considering the lineup does look solid enough, I'm pretty set on rolling the free transfer this week. Granted, despite looking decent enough on paper, this could be a game week where lots of us are hit with some rotation, especially with European fixtures now returning in midweek and the likes of Man City and United having big European ties on the way. Kevin De Bruyne possibly my biggest concern for rotation here within my 11, but that's just something I'm going to have to accept if it happens. With Forest up next, there's no way I'll be taking any chances there. Of course, if I did have enough money in the bank, I would be slightly tempted to make the luxury transfer of Mitrovic to João Felix this week. A very nice differential at home to Southampton, I think. However, considering I can't afford that move for free anyway, well, Mitrovic will have to stay for now. In fairness, he does boast a fixture in blank Game Week 25 next week, so although in my squad he's probably closest to being transferred out, perhaps he'll survive another game week or 2, let's see. Although I'm set on making no transfers this week, I do still face a couple of 50-50 decisions within my own squad, and one of them does include Mitrovic, who's annoyingly listed as a slight injury doubt now. Given his current form and seemingly difficult fixture away to an impressive Brighton up next, and considering he is now listed as a slight injury doubt, well, all signs are pointing to benching him this week, and I do have a very capable replacement in Gnonto as first spot on the bench currently. However, all that said, how often have we seen Marco Silva play mind games regarding Mitrovic this season? And every time he's listed as an injury concern, it seems that he's sold, he's benched by FPL managers, only to see him then start and inexplicably turn into a prime Serbian Ruud van Nistelrooy. So although it does seem completely sensible to bench him this week, it's that psychological factor of what's happened in the past that has me reluctant. That's one decision I'm weighing up before the deadline, but likely leaning towards starting Mitrovic, I think. If he should miss out altogether, which granted is unlikely, then Gnonto is there as a replacement anyway. The other choice that I'm still weighing up this week is whether to include Rico Lewis in my starting 11, who, despite not featuring in City's double game week last time out, may still very well come back into the City 11 for this game against Forest. A game in which, as mentioned before, Pep may see as a chance to rotate in, considering their Champions League fixture against Leipzig on Wednesday. I think if I am to play Lewis this week, then you could make a case for starting him over any of my 3 current defenders, none with particularly easy fixtures. I expect all of them to concede this week, to be honest, but what I like about these 3 is simply their guarantee of starts, no stress, which with Lewis is always just unnecessary worry, hoping that he plays, then hoping he doesn't come on as sub if he doesn't. For me personally, the player I'd be most inclined to bench this week for Lewis would be Gabriel away to Villa. The Gunners have looked a bit shaky defensively in recent weeks, while since Emery took charge, Villa have significantly improved going forward. Thomas Partey potentially missing out would too be a big miss for Arsenal, who's to be assessed before the game. So that's another 50-50 that I'm weighing up before the deadline. Likely to keep things as they are, but I'll see how I feel about it Saturday morning, and perhaps an update on Partey's fitness could be pivotal. For the captaincy in Game Week 24, again with possible rotation looming this week, even for that of Haaland potentially, perhaps there's a strong case to go against him this week, particularly with Rashford still in quite simply scintillating form, and a decent home fixture here against an unpredictable Leicester who aren't keeping clean sheets. The Foxes have conceded 13 goals in 7 games since the restart, and notably no clean sheets in that time. So I have to say, strong considerations here to put the armband on Rashford this week, but more than likely I'm not going to do so. As usual, I just feel like for every small bit of progress made this season, going against Haaland in a single game week has every chance to backfire so significantly and undo weeks and weeks of said progress. This season is just so difficult to make ground, and yet so easy to fall big by betting against the Norwegian, and personally I'm just not prepared to do that this week, especially with it being against Forest, who he did bag a first half hat-trick against last time. Will Haaland get reduced minutes in this fixture this week? Well, I'd imagine that is almost a certainty, but even 60 minutes can still be enough, with Forest having a bit of a defensive injury crisis heading into this game. Notably, their centre-back partnership of Bolly and McKenna are both set to be out for this fixture, and that for me is enough to keep the armband on Haaland. In fairness, despite Rashford being a very strong consideration for captaincy this week, he's not immune to reduced minutes in this game either. He too has played a lot of football for United lately, and they've got plenty of big games on the way. So that's everything regarding my team discussed for Game Week 24. The plan is to roll the free transfer, and what you see on screen is, I'd say, the most likely 11 come the deadline. Still, as discussed though, those few 50-50s to weigh up regarding my bench, so my mind could change come Saturday morning. Good luck to you all for the upcoming game week, FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all very soon.